Attention bowlers, we are going to get started. Welcome back to Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. This is a doubleheader today. Justin Ruggiero at Bryan Patten and Bryan Hebert at Chris Salmons. The match format is 5 strings with 14 points on offer, 2 points per string, 4 points for total pinfall. If there's a tie, the points are evenly split. I am Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, brought to you by 3 Ball Spare Conglomerate. Good as always to have you along with us. This match was played on Friday, March 14th, 2025. And we're going to open up with Justin Ruggiero on the right. And Bryan Hebert on the left. Justin Ruggiero opening up with a 9 drop and a spare. And Bryan Hebert working ball. With a 5 drop, turning into an 8 drop. And that becomes a 10 box. Both bowlers clearing the decks to start things out. Folks, I would like to highlight a few things. First, this broadcast should have subtitles and live captioning enabled, so if you enjoy this feature, please feel free to enable it in the controls below. And if you're watching this broadcast on YouTube, the transcript feature will also likely be available. And that will be a 6 fill for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert is off to the left. Neither bowler on the head pin. And Bryan Hebert is working on a 7 box or greater. Justin Ruggiero will pin it out for a 9. 16, then 9. And Bryan Hebert will also take a 9. After 2, Justin Ruggiero is at 25. And Bryan Hebert is at 19. The bowlers have elected to go away and home rather than head-to-head today. Ruggiero drops 9 on the head pin. Hebert drops a little less. That's a spare for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert on the right side. Lemon drop. Completes the lemon drop twice. 6 down, then the 4 down. And Bryan Hebert will turn the double lemon drop into a 7 box. That's 26 after 3 for Hebert and 35 after 3 for Ruggiero. And Ruggiero with an awkward 3 fill. Very interesting 3 fill. Bryan Hebert drops 6. Justin Ruggiero will take a few more out, leaving the 5 and the 8. Hebert punches the 6. It's 8-10 for Justin Ruggiero, which will become a 9. 7-10 for Hebert, which becomes a 9. It's 47 after 4 for Justin Ruggiero with 2 headpin shots. Hebert, no headpin shots yet. 35 after 4. In this battle of the Bryans, Justin Ruggiero at Bryan Patten and Bryan Hebert at Chris Salmons. Here at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. Again, I'm Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. It's great to have you along. That's a 7 drop for Justin Ruggiero. He missed the headpin again. Bryan Hebert with his first headpin shot, and it's a split. 7 drops, 6, 7, 9. Justin Ruggiero is off to the left. And Bryan Hebert, similar story. Both bowlers missing their spares. Justin Ruggiero will take a 9. And Hebert will take 7. That will be the story of the first half. Justin Ruggiero with a 56 half and Bryan Hebert with a 42 half. And I'd like to add that those scores are confirmed. All paper scoring, all manual scoring at Riverwalk Lanes. That's Bryan Patten opening up. Followed by Chris Salmons. Patten with an awkward split. Salmons with an 8 drop on the 4-7. Chris Salmons will open up with a spare, though, all the while. And Brian Patten's got the 2-6-10 to work with now. And Patten with a 2 drop. Salmons with a 3 drop. And Patten, ooh, that was a punch through the center. Having trouble there. Salmons drops the ball early. You can tell by his reaction. Something wasn't right with that release. And Patten will take an awkward 5 box. And Salmons will at least pin it out for a 9 box, 22 after 2, and 13 after 2 for Patten. Correction, 7 box for Patten, 12 after 2 for Patten, 22 after 2 for Chris Salmons. Brian Patten with the lemon drop. And a drop on the 10 pin for Chris Salmons. Brian Patten's on the head pin for the second ball. Leaves the 5 and the 10. Chris Salmons leaves the 5-6-3. Brian Patten will take a 9 box. Chris Salmons all the while for his box. Conclusion is a 7. That's 21 after 3 for Brian Patten and 29 after 3 for Chris Salmons. So folks, as you may have already noticed, I already made a scoring flub on the score stream. The paper copy is the official copy. The stream copy is not the official copy. I will occasionally try to lean over to verify. And there's a strike for Brian Patten, though, all the while. And Chris Salmons nearly matching. He leaves the 4 pin on the deck. Yes, again, the paper copy is the correct copy. I'll occasionally lean over to verify the scores the best I can. That's a spare for Chris Salmons. 39 a bonus after 4. 31 and a bonus after 4 for Brian Patten. Brian Patten has a season record of 39 and 101. At home, he's 14 and 56. Away, he's 25 and 45, and he'll drop 7 on the strike. Chris Salmons will fill with 7 on his spare. Patten, 136. Nearly a spare on strike. He'll fill with 9. 40 after 4. That's a double spare for Chris Salmons, though, 2 in a row. 56, half, plus a ball. Patten will take a 9. And that is the end. Oops. Excuse me. There we go. That is the end of the half for these two bowlers. The lead is 7 between Justin Ruggiero and Brian Patten. The lead is 14 for Chris Salmons versus Bryan Hebert. Chris Salmons in the lead by 14. Justin Ruggiero in the lead by 7. And the bowlers are just quickly swapping their balls across the ball returns, as we do at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. And it's back to Bryan Hebert and Justin Ruggiero for the second half of the first game. Bryan Hebert opens up with an interesting working first ball. Justin Ruggiero off to the corner. Hebert's on the head pin for the recovery second ball, but he's left with the 5-6-3-10. Ruggiero 1-3-6. No mark for either bowler. And Bryan Hebert with the 9 wiggling. Doesn't go. Justin Ruggiero will take a 10. Hebert will take a 9. 66 and 6 for Ruggiero. 51 and 6 for Hebert. And he's off to the left of the head pin with a half Worcester plus a friend. Justin Ruggiero with an 8 drop. Hebert, again, a working box. 1, 3, 4, 7. Ruggiero, 1 and 8. Beans the 1, leaves the 8. Hebert for a 10 box. 6 box guarantee. It'll be a 6. 57 and 7. Justin Ruggiero will take 10. 76 and 7 for Justin Ruggiero. 57 and 7 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert has a season record of 50 and 118. Home record 20 and 50. Away record 30 and 68. And Bryan Hebert's on the 1-2 pocket, split 6. That's a right side Cleary for Justin Ruggiero. The Cleary is the opposite sleeper pin that isn't in the corner from the Four Horsemen. And Hebert, will he spare it up? Oh, the 7 doesn't go. It was a great attempt. Great offer. Justin Ruggiero will take the sleeper of the Cleary. Bryan Hebert pins it out for a 10, just barely staying on. And that'll be a 9 box for Justin Ruggiero. 85 and 8 for Justin Ruggiero. 67 and 8 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert has a season average of 92.18. When he's home at Lakeside Lanes, his average is 90.8. When he's away, his average is 93.17. His high single is 112. His high series is 594. He has 9 strikes, 74 tens, and 110 tens. Excuse me, let me back that up. 9 strikes, 74 spares, and 110 tens for the season. 32% perfect box percentage for Bryan Hebert with 55-31 seasonal total pins. Hebert drops 7. He was on the head pin, 5-6-3. Justin Ruggiero takes 2 in the corner. Hebert. Excellent spare by Bryan Hebert. Justin Ruggiero almost matches, leaves the 4. And he'll take a 9. Let's look at that spare by Bryan Hebert on the triangle. Once again, the 3 triangle. And everything goes. He was right on the head of the triangle, but just off enough to split the difference. Hebert's going to fill his spare with... And goodbye, it's a strike. Strike for Bryan Hebert. Justin Ruggiero on the opposite corner this time. And Justin Ruggiero punching hard through the center. And it will be 7 for Justin Ruggiero. And let's look at that replay again. I'm sorry, I missed the hotkey. Or the hotkey stopped working. One of the two. Bryan Hebert's filling a strike. He nearly doubles it up. Leaves the 7 on the deck. And he'll put an exclamation point on that. Bryan Hebert will take a 107 first game. Justin Ruggiero will take a 101 first game. Both bowlers over 100 here at the start of this 5-game series. Hebert on the board with a strike and a spare, 107, 2 marks. Justin Ruggiero, 2 spares for 101. Hebert and Ruggiero both 3 for 10 in the head pin. Bryan Hebert had two splits. It'll be Bryan Patten and Chris Salmons next. Chris Salmons opening up with an awkward 1-drop, and Bryan Patten has to reset because there was a missing pin. Here comes Bryan Patten's first ball now. Right side Candlepin corner. Chris Salmons. He leaves a 6-pack. Check his ID. Bryan Patten on the second ball. No mark. Leaves the 1 and the 3. Chris Salmons will take a 4-box, leaving the 6-pack. Drinking responsibly. Dry January and March. 9-box for Bryan Patten, 58 and 6. Talking about Chris Salmons, he has a season record of 148 and 90 with 17 matches played. 1.64 win-loss ratio. At home, he's 72 and 40. When he's away, he's 76 and 50. Chris Salmons' season average is 99.46. His home average is 100.75. His away average is 98.31. It's a working ball for Chris Salmons to start out. And Bryan Patten when splitting 7. Chris Salmons tails off to the left. Patten is just a little bit off the target. Head pin hits the wood behind it. And Chris Salmons, painful additional ball. It's a 6 for Salmons and 9 for Patten. 67 and 7 for Patten, 67 and 7 for Salmons. Salmons. Teach a man to fish. He's on the head pin. He's not on the head pin, but drops 7. Leaves the 1-2-7. Bryan Patten is on the head pin and splits 7. Salmons. Again, tailing off to the left. Takes the left corner 7 pin. Bryan Patten on the 7-10-6. Leaves the 6 pin. Salmons will take 8 for 75 and 8. Bryan Patten will take a 9 for 76 and 8. Bryan Patten 76 and 8 versus Justin Ruggiero's 85 and 8. Chris Salmons 75 and 8 versus Bryan Hebert's 67 and 8. To give you some perspective, up in the top left corner are the up to the moment score totals and differences. Oh, and Chris Salmons will take a quarter Worcester on the 3 pin. Bryan Patten, meanwhile, leaves the 2-4-7. Chris Salmons punches full on the center pin. 2-4-7. Bryan Patten, 2-4-7 as well, punches the 4. Chris Salmons will take a 9. 84 in 9. Bryan Patten will take a 10 for 86 in 9. It's a difference of 15 between Justin Ruggiero and Bryan Patten. Going into the final box, Bryan Hebert and Chris Salmons, it's a difference of 23. Minus the next box, of course, for both of our home bowlers, Bryan Patten and Chris Salmons. And Chris Salmons will take a strike, and he wanted that one badly. Bryan Patten almost responds, but he splits 7. Both bowlers were on the pocket. Patten. 2-5-7, and he'll spare it up as well. 96 in the 10th for Patten plus a ball. 94 in the 10th for Salmons plus a ball. Every bowler except Justin Ruggiero with a mark in the 10th. Got to clear a pin out on lane 6 at Riverwalk Lanes, and now we got to reset. Chris Salmons has a high single of 131 and a high series of 560 this season with 21 strikes, 152 spares, and 166 tens. He has a 40% perfect box percentage and 84-54 seasonal total pins. That's Chris Salmons this season so far. On the strike for Chris Salmons, drops 7 so far. Bryan Patten on his spare fill on the head pin, drops 7, fills with 7. That's a 103 first game. Chris Salmons, and that will be a 7 fill on his strike. For a 101 game for Chris Salmons, Bryan Hebert will take the first game 107 to Chris Salmons' 101. Justin Ruggiero with a 101, just down by 2 to Bryan Patten's 103. So Bryan Patten, the home bowler, wins the first game. Chris Salmons, the home bowler, does not win the first game. So we have a nice, interesting split between the two. And I just wanted to double check, and the scores do appear to be correct. I gotta really lean over and look at some paper copy stuff, which is always fun. Hebert drops 1, Ruggiero drops 8. Hebert on the head pin and takes a spare. Just needed to practice first ball. But Justin Ruggiero will match spares for both of our bowlers to start out. We have Mark Ritchie in the audience and Caitlin Zolko in the audience. Caitlin coming all the way down from Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire to cheer on Bryan Hebert. Piece of paper falling down. Mark Ritchie announces there will be no fun in this building. No fun allowed at Amesbury, Massachusetts. If you smile, you're out of here. That's a 6 fill for Bryan Hebert on the 2 triangle, and a 6 fill for Justin Ruggiero on the left side inverted check mark. Hebert, almost breaks the diamond. Takes 3 of the 4, leaves the sleeper. Ruggiero takes the 5. Hebert with a 9, 25 after 2. Ruggiero with a 9, 25 after 2, making my job easy. Bryan Hebert is number 5 in Class E North Division 2 in the overall standings, and he's 10th place in E North overall. Hebert will take a Cleary, missing the head pin. Ruggiero, left side 4 horsemen. It's a Cleary minus the sleeper. Hebert punches the 2. Ruggiero takes 3, but misses the object pin and leaves the object pin. Hebert will pin it out for a 9 and good out. Ruggiero also a 9. Again, it's the same 34 love between Justin Ruggiero and Bryan Hebert. They are not bowling against each other, mind you. The bowlers have elected this afternoon to not bowl head-to-head. So it's away bowlers first and then home bowlers second. Bryan Hebert from Lakeside Lanes, Justin Ruggiero from Academy Lanes. Hebert drops 8 on the head pin. Justin Ruggiero's off to the right. Half Worcester plus a friend. 3 drop. Hebert on the 2-4. Oh, he's just off to the right. Justin Ruggiero sails through the same void the first ball went into. Bryan Hebert. Oh, and the wood causes a deflection. Heartbreaker. 42 after 4. 6 box for Ruggiero. 40 after 4. No longer tied. Bryan Hebert, so far this season, he's had a bit of a tough season. He has no matches at or over 550 and no matches at or over 600. No matches with shutout victories, but he has 2 matches with double-digit wins. He'll split 6 there. Justin Ruggiero will drop 9, leaving the 5 on the deck. Hebert. Oh, tries to send it right, and all of them get touched. The 5 pin is left. Ruggiero misses a single pin spare. Bryan Hebert will take a 10 box, and so will Justin Ruggiero, and that's the end of the half. And it's 50 after 5 for Justin Ruggiero and 52 after 5 for Bryan Hebert. And those scores are confirmed. Here comes Chris Salmons, splitting 7. And here comes Brian Patten with a 6 drop, not on the head pin. 7-10-6 for Salmons. And he'll kick the 6. Brian Patten will take the 9 and leave the 1-7-10. Chris Salmons with an 8. And Patten will take 8 as well. Both bowlers will open up with 8 after 1. Chris Salmons is second place in Class E North Division 2. Number 3 seed in Class E North overall. He has 2 matches at or over 550. No matches at or over 600 just yet. He'll drop 7, leaving the 1-2-10. Brian Patten. Head pin. Split 7. 4-6-2. And Chris Salmons misses the object pin, but takes everything else. Leaves the head pin on the deck. Brian Patten on the 4-6-2. Oh, and he almost gets it. Salmons will take 9. Patten will pin it out for a 10. 18 after 2 for Brian Patten and 17 after 2 for Chris Salmons. Chris Salmons has 4 of 17 matches with shutout victories and 9 of 17 matches with double-digit wins. His head pin average per match is 19.43 for 50. Chris Salmons will take a spread eagle minus the 6. Patten will take out the 4 horsemen left side, and oddly enough, nothing else. It's a mini rack on the right side. It's the 3-pin mini rack of 6. Working ball for Salmons, 2-3-10. Patten on the mini rack. He'll take 3, leave 3. It's like the kiddie bowling set. Chris Salmons on the 2-3-10 for a 10 box. 7 box guarantee. And he'll get a 9. 26 after 3 for Chris Salmons. Brian Patten will pin it out for a 10 for 28 after 3. In the game, Justin Ruggiero up by 22, ahead by 2 boxes. Bryan Hebert up by 26, ahead 2 boxes. Chris Salmons, head pin, slightly full, drop 6. Split 6, 4, 6, 3, 10. Bryan Patten with a strike. Powerful strike to start things out. 38 and a bonus after 4. Chris Salmons sails through the void, and the void stares back. Like a black cat. And it's an 8 box for Chris Salmons. 34 after 4. 38 and a bonus after 4 for Bryan Patten. 1 box to go before we swap back to our opposing bowlers. It's currently the home bowlers up, followed by the away bowlers. That's the order they've elected to bowl in today. Chris Salmons on the head pin, a little bit full, 4-pin spread eagle. Painful. Caca. Bryan Patten on the head pin, and he'll double it up. That's a double strike for Bryan Patten. Great one to sit on. Chris Salmons on the eagle. Will he break the eagle for a spare? It'll get sort of most of the way there, leaving 2 pins on the deck. 3-6. And he'll pin it out for a 9, and that's the half. That's a difference of 8 between Bryan Patten and Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Patten plus his fills, 8 and. That's the lead. Bryan Hebert, up all the while, is up by 9 in the game and up in the total by 15 against Chris Salmons. Those are your current score totals. Could be anyone's game, though. All the bowlers are bowling very competitively right now. Here comes Justin Ruggiero. Working ball. Same for Hebert. Justin Ruggiero in the green on your right, and Bryan Hebert in the black on your left. From the perspective of the back camera, Justin Ruggiero almost nudges down all the pins. And Bryan Hebert will take 2 more, leaving the center diamond in the 8 and the 9. Justin Ruggiero will pin it out for a 10. Bryan Hebert's looking at a 7 box. 1, 2, 9 left on the deck for Bryan Hebert. 59 and 6 for Bryan Hebert, and 60 and 6 for Justin Ruggiero. Justin Ruggiero has a season record of 94 and 60 with 11 matches played. When at home at Academy Lanes, he's 62 and 22. When he's away, he's 32 and 38 with a season average of 108.05. Ruggiero drops 6, Hebert drops 7. Neither bowler on the head pin. Ruggiero pokes the 3, leaves the high-low jack 1, 7, 10. And Hebert will take the rear 10 pin, leaving the 1 and the 3. No mark for either bowler. Justin Ruggiero up next. He'll leave a 7. Or he'll leave 3 for 7, that is. Hebert will take 8. 67 and 7 for Hebert. 67 and 7 for Justin Ruggiero. Justin Ruggiero has a home average of 110.37 and an away average of 105.28. His high single is 140. His high series is 617 for this season. And Ruggiero gets a decent mix despite missing the head pin, drops 8. Hebert will take the back right candlepin corner and a friend. Justin Ruggiero has 32 strikes, 124 spares, and 113 for the season with a 49% perfect box percentage. 59-43 seasonal total pins, and what a spare by Justin Ruggiero. Hebert pokes the 10 pin. Hebert will take a great 9 box for 76 and 8, given the situation he was in. Justin Ruggiero 77 and a bonus in the 8th. Justin Ruggiero is second place in B North Division 4 and the number 6 seed in B North overall. Here comes Justin Ruggiero. Oh, and a lemon drop fill. That's a $5 donation to Candlepins for Cancer per occurrence. Hebert's off to the back right candlepin corner. Justin Ruggiero's second ball is an overcorrection to the opposite corner. And Hebert, no spare. Good offer. Offer not accepted, though. It's a 4 box for Justin Ruggiero. And Hebert will take a 9. 85 and 9 for Hebert. 82 and 9 for Justin Ruggiero. Justin Ruggiero has 3 matches at or over 550 and 2 matches at or over 600 this season. He has 1 match with a shutout victory this season. 5 for 11 with double-digit wins. That's a Cleary for Justin Ruggiero, named after Bob Cleary. And Bryan Hebert, that's another quarter Worcester, our second one of the night. Justin Ruggiero on the Cleary, and he'll leave 2. Hebert on the quarter, Worcester. Will it go? You connected with the 1-2 pocket, but he leaves the 6-7-8. Justin Ruggiero will pin it out for a 9 for a 91 second game. 2-game total 192. Bryan Hebert with an 8-box for a 93 second game. 2-game total of 200. We'll assess the totals and everything when we finish the last quarter of the second game. Bryan Patten is on a double strike. 58 half plus his fill balls. Chris Salmons is at 43 after 5. Fast-moving action here at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. The match before the Friday Night Pro League here. Bryan Patten starts out, filling a strike so far with a 2 fill. 50 after 4. Next ball completes the 5th box. Chris Salmons, all the while, drops 7. Not on the head pin. Bryan Patten, next ball is the 5th frame fill. Oh, and he'll take 8 on that, though. 68 after 5. Chris Salmons with a nice spare, though, on the 7 drop. 1-4-8. Those go. 4-5 for Bryan Patten with a 9-box. That puts him at 77 after 6. Justin Ruggiero, no splits tonight. He's the only one still without any. Bryan Patten will split 7 on the head pin. Oh, and our third quarter Worcester for Chris Salmons. Bowler's joking about this. We've seen so many of these tonight already. 3 so far. Start a counter. Bryan Patten, what a spare. He's on fire. 87 and 7 plus a ball. Chris Salmons will poke the 6. This is a house where if you throw the wrong kind of ball, these are the kind of shots you're going to get. Chris Salmons seems to be nailing that ball consistent. Oh, and he'll take a 5-box. 59 and 7 for Chris Salmons. Rough game for Chris Salmons. We'll see if he can get to 93 or higher against Bryan Hebert. Bryan Patten all the while is at 87 and 7, and he only has to get to 91 or greater to take points. So it looks like Bryan Hebert and Bryan Patten, the Bryans, might be victorious so far. That's a 7 fill for Bryan Patten. Salmons, another lemon drop. A lot of lemon drops and a lot of punch-outs. Don't worry, I'll be relaying all of this information back to Paul Grant for donations for later. Candlepins for Cancer is always watching. Working ball for Chris Salmons leaves the 2 and the 4. 3 and the 7 for Bryan Patten. And he'll take a 10-box. Chris Salmons will take a 9. 68 and 8 for Salmons. 104 and 8 for Bryan Patten. Bryan Patten has a season average of 102.26. When he's at home, he averages 102.88. When he's away, he averages 101.64 with a high single of 132 and a high series of 576. That's a 5 drop for Bryan Patten. Chris Salmons off to the left of the head pin takes 2. Bryan Patten has 19 strikes, 91 spares, and 96 tens for the season with a perfect box percentage of 41%, 51-13 seasonal total pins, and will he take the spare? He will. Tripping over my own words watching that spare go. I was amazed to see that 10-pin fall. Bryan Patten at 114 in the ball in the 9th. Chris Salmons working on a 5 or greater. He'll make it an 8-box, 76 and 9. Bryan Patten is 4th place in Class B North Division 1 and the 15th seed in Class B North overall. Bryan Patten has 1 match out of over 550, no matches out of over 600. No matches with shutout victories, and 1 match with double-digit wins. And that's an 8 fill on the head pin, maybe a 9. It will be a 9 for Bryan Patten. Chris Salmons just having trouble finding the head pin. He's 8 for 20. Bryan Patten is 10 for 20 with 7 splits. Chris Salmons 4 splits. Oh, and he just misses the single pin spare on the 6 pin. And Chris Salmons just a little bit off to the right. Now it'll be a 10-box for Bryan Patten. A bit of a missed opportunity on the mark, but he'll finish with a 133. And Chris Salmons with that 8-box will finish with an 84. So Bryan Patten has taken control of this match, and he still has control, that is. Look at that stack of marks. 133 game 2 for Bryan Patten. 236 2-game total. 2-game total of 192 for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert's at 200, and Chris Salmons is at 185. Currently, Bryan Patten has 4 points, and currently Bryan Hebert has 4 points. It's currently shutouts all around. Sorry about that. That's a strike for Justin Ruggiero. Again, my apologies. I was switching the scoreboard over to the next game, and my fingers just weren't fast enough to switch over the cameras. Bryan Hebert, 1 drop. Second ball's on the 1-3 pocket. Yeah, and Justin Ruggiero threw a strike to start things out. And Hebert will open with a 7. We're moving very fast here at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. Bowlers are eager to throw a bit of a speed league here tonight. Justin Ruggiero splits 7 on the first ball of the strike fill. Hebert is another wild pitch off to the right. Just needs to slow it down a bit. Justin Ruggiero almost spares it up, and he'll fill that strike with 9. And Hebert still off to the right. Takes a few more. That'll be 10 box for Justin Ruggiero. Hebert will take 5. And Ruggiero is too much on the head pin. Hebert will split 7 and get some slightly better luck. Ruggiero's got a 4-pin spread eagle. And he'll take a hard hit on the left side. No mark. Hebert for his 4-6-3 and a bouncy ball went off course. Ruggiero will take a 10. 39 after 3. Hebert will take a 9 for 21 after 3. Bryan Hebert is 7 for 23 on the headpin with 4 splits. Justin Ruggiero is 9 for 23 on the headpin with 2 splits. Justin Ruggiero, wild pitch on the corner. And Hebert drops 7. He was on the headpin, but mixed down everything but the 1-3-10. Justin Ruggiero, better second ball, leaves the 1-3-9. Hebert. Will he get the spare? Oh, the piece of wood just spins and doesn't push back. Justin Ruggiero, another 10 box, third in a row, 49 after 4. Bryan Hebert will take a 10 as well, 31 after 4. Justin Ruggiero, on average, goes 17.86 for 50 on the head pin, 7.86 split average per match. His home house is Academy Lanes. In his past 5 matches, he's taken 39 points, averaging 7.8 per match. Total pinfall in his past 5 matches has been 26.65, averaging 5.33 per match. Hebert drops 8, not on the head pin. Justin Ruggiero missed the head pin as well, but only dropped 4. Ruggiero on his 4 drop takes 2 more. Hebert on the 1-9. Oh, and a nice spare. It was a nice full. The ball was full enough to punch back. Ruggiero will take a 6. Painful 6. Hebert will sit on a nice spare for 41 and a bonus after 5. 1 for 5 in the head pin that game with a split. Justin Ruggiero 3 for 5 in the head pin with 2 splits for a 55 half and 3 10s and a strike. It's now back to Chris Salmons and Bryan Patten here on the Atlantic Cannibal Singles Tour. This fast-moving match. Again, I'm Steve Kelly on the call. Great to have you along. And look at that, nearly a strike for Bryan Patten to start out. Chris Salmons. Oh, that ball goes way off. It starts out on the edge and stays on the edge. Waiting on a piece of wood. Mark Ritchie, he's not entirely certain, but he thinks that pin is out. And we will now say hello to Mark Ritchie, the owner of Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts, to very graciously go down and replace or remove that pin. Look at him go without causing an interference call. There he goes. Yay! Mark Ritchie, shout out to him. It's always hilarious. I'm always just trying not to laugh Laugh my butt off back here when he's talking. Spare for Bryan Patten. He says, I went all the way down there. You better hit it. Oh, and Chris Salmons will take a 7. Oops, sorry. One more ball. Excuse me. 1, 2, 8. Oh, and it will be a 7. Okay, 7 after 1 for Salmons, 10 after 1 and a bonus for Bryan Patten. Yeah, Mark Ritchie, some of the stuff he says is just, and he's sitting behind me, it's just so dang funny. Just trying not to laugh while I'm commentating. Bryan Patten on the headpin, drops 8, fills 8. Chris Salmons, another wild pitch. He's had a lot of these today. Just way off course. Bryan Patten, another spare on the board for Bryan Patten. 28 and a bonus after 2. Chris Salmons punches hard on the 2-8. And he'll turn that into a 9 box, thankfully. 16 after 2 for Chris Salmons. Bryan Patten has a headpin average of 21 for 50 per match this season, with a split average of 8.67 per match. His home house is here at Riverwalk Lanes. That'll be a 7 drop, an 8 drop, 8 fill for Bryan Patten, not on the headpin. Chris Salmons leaves the 6-pack on the right side. Check his ID. Oh, and Bryan Patten laughing. Misses his 3rd spare in a row. Both bowlers, no spare. Bryan Patten in his past 5 matches has taken 23 points, averaging 4.6 points per match. That's a 9 box for Bryan Patten. Chris Salmons will take a 7 all the while. In Bryan Patten's past 5 matches, he's totaled 49 pins in total pinfall, averaging 509.8 per match. He has 6 out of 10 matches at or over 500 in the grand total pinfall. Bryan Patten off to the right. 6-pack on the 10. Salmons. Just a 6-pack. Check his ID. Once again, another 6-pack. Bryan Patten. A little full on the 6-pack, leaves the 4 and the 10. Salmons on his 6-pack, leaves 2, drinks responsibly, 1-8. Patten. We'll take a 9, 54 and 4. And an 8 for Salmons, 31 and 4. Bryan Patten's longest streak of strings at or over 100 has been 8 this season so far. His longest streak of matches at or over 500 has been 1. And Bryan Patten drops 7 on the ones, leaving the 1-7-8. Chris Salmons in the back left corner, but gets a spinny piece of debris that leaves the center diamond in the 10. Bryan Patten. Oh, and he takes the 1, takes the 8, leaves the 7. Chris Salmons will be a spare. The 5-pin stays, unfortunately. Chris Salmons, Bryan Patten will take a 9. And it'll be a 9 for Salmons as well. It's the end of the half. The difference is 8 for Bryan Patten against Justin Ruggiero in the game. And Bryan Patten has a total by 52 right now. Bryan Patten 63, Justin Ruggiero 55, Bryan Hebert 41 and a bonus after 5, Chris Salmons 40 after 5. Hebert has the total by 16 and has the game by 1. So it's fairly narrow for Bryan Hebert and Chris Salmons. And it's also fairly narrow for Justin Ruggiero and Bryan Patten, aside from the total, which is at about 52. But we are 2.5 games in. We are at halftime. And now back to our away bowlers, Justin Ruggiero and Bryan Hebert. Here comes Bryan Hebert, filling his spare with 5. Justin Ruggiero leaves a 6-pack in the 10. Bryan Hebert sails off to the left. 1, 2, 10. Ruggiero on the 6-pack in the 10. And the 6-pack in the 10 goes. That's a spare for Justin Ruggiero. And Hebert will punch 1 for an 8 box. 54 and 6 for Bryan Hebert. 65 and a bonus after 6 for Justin Ruggiero. Talking more about Bryan Hebert, on average, he goes 17 for 50 on the head pin per match this season with an 8.5 split average per match. And he'll drop 8 on the head pin there, and oof. Ruggiero will punch 2 and fill with 2. Oh, Bryan had a misfire there. Justin Ruggiero on the head pin, but too hard on the head pin. 4-6, 210. Hebert on the 3-6. Oh, and he'll take an 8. Ruggiero will take 7. 74 after 7 for Ruggiero, and 62 after 7 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert's home house is Lakeside Lanes. In his past 5 matches, he's taken 20 points, averaging 4 per match, totaling 22.47 in total pinfall in his past 5 matches, averaging 449.4 per match. Hebert will split 6. And Justin Ruggiero is yet another lemon drop. Candlepins for Cancer is in the money tonight. And Hebert will take a spare. Awesome spare on that split. Justin Ruggiero is on the pocket, and it looked good with the 5-10 stay. Ruggiero waiting for the wood to settle. Looks like it's going to roll back and go off the lip. There it goes. Ruggiero will take a 9. 83 and 8. Hebert's at 72 and a bonus in the 8th. Bryan Hebert has no matches at or over 500 this season. Again, he's had a bit of a struggling season. But today he's doing pretty good so far, I gotta say. He'll take a 6 fill on his spare. And Ruggiero will take a slow-moving split of 6. Hebert, 1, 3, 4, 7, and it goes. That's a double spare for Bryan Hebert. 88 and a bonus in the 9th. And Ruggiero almost tries to match. Well, he does try to match, but doesn't quite get it. Leaves the 10. Ruggiero on the 10. We'll take a 9. 92 and 9 for Ruggiero. 88 and a bonus in the 9th for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert's longest streak of strings at or over 100 has been 3 this season. His longest streak of matches at or over 550 has been 0. And his longest winning streak has been 1 so far. So he's just been having trouble stringing the streaks together. Oh, and my goodness, another quarter Worcester. This is a clinic of quarter Worcesters today. So fill with 1 is an 11 blocks for Bryan Hebert, 89 and 9. And Hebert will complete the Worcester on the left side, a full half Worcester. Justin Ruggiero's on the back left corner. Hebert, bouncy ball, just needs some more pins. If he can make it, there'll be a 6 for 95 and an 8 for Justin Ruggiero, puts him at 100. Bryan Hebert getting a little bit ripped off on that fill in that last box. He's at a 3-game total of 295. With that 95 for Bryan Hebert, Justin Ruggiero with a clean 100 in the 3rd for a 3-game total of 292. And that's the story so far. Bryan Patten and Chris Salmons coming up to complete the final quarter of the 3rd game. Here comes Chris Salmons first. To the right of the head pin. Drops 2. Bryan Patten's a quarter Worcester. I mean, excuse me, a lemon drop. Not a quarter Worcester, a lemon drop. Chris Salmons will overcorrect to the left and lead the 1 and the 3. No mark. Bryan Patten for his mark. A little bit off to the right. 4 horsemen and a sleeper. Chris Salmons will take an 8. 48 and 6. Bryan Patten will punch 1 for a 6 box for 69 in 6. Chris Salmons, on average, 8.17 splits per match. Home house is here at Riverwalk Lanes, and he'll punch for a half Worcester on the right side. Bryan Patten, working ball, not on the head pin, drops 5. Salmons will take 2 more, 4 so far. 1, 2, 5, 8, 6, 10. Bryan Patten on the 1, 2, 3, 9, 10. And it's a spare for Bryan Patten. Turns that working ball into a perfectly working spare. And a nice 10 pin. A nice 10 box. 10 out, good out for Chris Salmons for 58 and 7. 79 and a bonus and 7 for Bryan Patten. Chris Salmons in his past 5 matches has taken 38 points, averaging 7.6 per match, totaling 24.49 in total pinfall in his past 5 matches, averaging 489.8. And look at that strike by Chris Salmons. Kaboom. Bryan Patten filling the spare with 7. 86 and 7. Bryan Patten on the 1-6-10 for a spare. And it goes. Of course it does. Bryan Patten is murdering pins today. It's 96 in the 8th plus a bonus. He's 12 for 28 on the head pin with 7 splits. Chris Salmons is currently 9 for 28 on the head pin with 4 splits. Chris Salmons working on a strike. Chris Salmons off the left of the head pin. 4 so far. It's a 6-pack right. Check his ID. Bryan Patten with a spare fill. 5, 6, 7. Not on the head pin, but still a good mix. And Chris Salmons will fill with 6 on a strike, leaving the right side for Horseman. Bryan Patten. Oh, he almost gets... Oh, he does get the 3-peat. Another spare. And a 9-box for Chris Salmons. 3 in a row for Bryan Patten. That's $50 in bonus money if this were a different time on the Channel 5 WCVB Candlepin Bowling with Don Gillis show. 113 in the 9th and a bonus for Bryan Patten, and 83 and 9 for Chris Salmons. Bryan Patten's at 349 for an almost 3-game total with 1 box to go plus a fill. Chris Salmons. Right now. On the head pin. Split 6. Chris Salmons 10 for 30 in the head pin with 5 splits. Bryan Patten with a strike. Strike on spare. 4 marks in a row for Bryan Patten. 133 and a bonus. 369 3-game total so far. And a fill. He's not even done yet. He can get to 389 if he gets a triple. That's a 9 for Chris Salmons. 92, 277. Let's wait for Bryan Patten's fill before we assess the final totals. Bryan Patten on a strike. Oh, it looked good for a moment. It looked like it was going to be another hammer. Drops 6, left side accordion, 4, 5, 7, 8. 6 marks this game for Bryan Patten. 13 for 30 on the head pin with 7 splits. 92 and fill totals, and wow, an impressive 9 fill. 142. Game 3 for Bryan Patten. 378. 3-game total for Bryan Patten. Justin Ruggiero, 292. Bryan Patten is up in the total by 86 and took the 3rd game by 42. Bryan Hebert with a 3-game total of 295. He's holding on to the total by 18 and took the 3rd game by 3 against Chris Salmons is 92 in the 3rd for a 3-game total of 277. Yay bowling. As Chris Salmons proclaims. Let's move on to the next game, the 3rd game here in the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. This exciting Class B&E action here at Lakeside Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. I've been to too many Candlepin houses lately, and I'm forgetting where I am. And look at that. Justin Ruggiero nearly a strike, and Bryan Hebert not on the head pin, but drops 8, 110. Bryan Hebert. Oh, and will he ride the wood? Not quite. But Justin Ruggiero will take a single pin for a spare. 10 after 1 and a bonus. Bryan Hebert will take a 10, though. 10 after 1. Bryan Hebert averages 4.29 points per away match. He'll drop 7 there. Justin Ruggiero on splits 6, fills 6. Hebert 1-2-4. Oh, I heard an O. You never like to hear an O after a release. And Justin Ruggiero will sail through the center void. No mark for either bowler. Hebert 7, 8, 9, 10. It'll be a 9. Ruggiero will take a 7. 23 after 2 for Ruggiero and 19 after 2 for Hebert. Bryan Hebert averages 4 points per home match. In his past 5 matches, he's had 1 strike, 28 spares, 49 tens. And Hebert will punch the 4 for a lemon drop. And it'll be a right side candlepin corner for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert off to the right, working ball. Ruggiero, though, will punch it all out for a spare, right in the face. And Hebert will take a 7. 26 after 3 for Hebert, and 33 in a bonus after 3 for Justin Ruggiero. Comes Bryan Hebert. Look out. 6 drop. Not on the head pin. Justin Ruggiero, powerful ball to left the head pin, will fill with 7. Bryan here on the 6, and only the 6. 138. Justin Ruggiero, 137. Almost takes a spare. Good effort. Hebert at 7, 8, 9, or 10. It'll be a 9. 35 after 4. Ruggiero will take a 10. 50 after 4. 1 box to go before the half. Bryan Hebert in his past 5 away matches, he's taken 24 points, averaging 4.8 per match. Bryan Hebert, 9 drop on the head pin, leaves the 5. And Ruggiero missing the head pin to the right, leaves a 6-pack on the left. Check his ID. Hebert with a single pin spare, and he punches that right in the face. Justin Ruggiero leaves the 1 and the 4. And he'll take a 9 for 59 and 5, and Hebert will take 45 plus a bonus after 5. That's the story of midway through the 4th game. I can't believe we're already midway through the 4th game. We are moving fast and furious here on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, about 56 minutes into the match. For a doubleheader, we are moving at light speed, I gotta tell you. It'll be Chris Salmons starting out next. Chris Salmons, not on the head pin. Drops 7. And Brian Patten will drop 6. Salmons, he's just having trouble finding that head pin. That's just the common denominator I've been noticing today with Chris Salmons in particular. Brian Patten, who just threw a 142, has a working box. Chris Salmons has 8. So far, that is. That's an 8 for Salmons and a 10 for Patten. Chris Salmons has 6 of 17 matches at or over 500 in grand total pinfall. His longest streak of strings at or over 100 has been 5. His longest streak of matches at or over 550 has been 1, and he'll drop 7 there. Not on the head pin. 136. Brian Patten's to the left of the head pin. 136, 9, 4, 7, and an extra pin actually falls for Chris Salmons. Very, very late. Salmons now has a really good spare leave there, and I bet it's going to be one. And it sure is. That's a spare for Chris Salmons. 18 and a bonus after 2. Brian Patten's just off the right of the head pin. It's the 1479. And Patten will take an 8 box. 18 after 2 for Patten, and 18 and a bonus after 2 for Chris Salmons. Patten 18 after 2 versus Justin Ruggiero's 23. Salmons 18 after 2 versus Bryan Hebert's 19. Chris Salmons off the left of the head pin with a 6-pack and a 4 fill. Brian Patten to the right of the head pin. Pins are still mixing down, and it's going to be a 5 drop. Salmons, no second mark, leaves the 1 and the 3. Brian Patten 1, 2, 4, 9, 10. For a spare shot. Brian Patten takes the 4, and that's it. Salmons on the 1-3, and it'll be a 10 box for 32 after 3. Patten is looking at a 6 box or greater. And he'll make it an 8 box for 26 after 3. Chris Salmons' longest winning streak of greater than 7 points per match has been 3. He averages 9 points per home match, 8.44 points per away match, with 5 strikes, 44 spares, and 43 tens in his past 5 matches. That's the story of recency for Chris Salmons. That's Bryan Hebert just clearing out the wayward pin down there as Chris Salmons failed to hit it. Bryan Hebert and Chris Salmons have been battling each other over the course of over a year. We call it the Hebert-Salmons miniseries. Hebert shut Salmons out at Academy Lanes last year, but then Chris Salmons has just been winning ever since. So this is the conclusion for this season for those two. Brian Patten with the bucket of 5 on the right, and Chris Salmons splitting 7, 5, 6, 10, and he's left with a 5. Bryan Patten. Oh, and he'll punch the 6. No mark for either bowler. Chris Salmons is looking for a 10 box, but he'll take a 9 for 41 after 4. Bryan Patten for a 6 box or greater. He'll make it an 8, 34 after 4 for Bryan Patten. Here comes Chris Salmons winding up. And the pitch. He's on the head pin, the 1-2 pocket. Drops everything but the 6. 9 drop. Bryan Patten, same thing, but he makes it a strike. The 6 pin falls later. Chris Salmons wondering, why can't I get that? There is a pin down there. We're waiting for it just to roll out of play. I think it will. There it goes. Off on its merry way. Just realized I have the camera inverted, or flipped over. And that's a 9 box for... Oh, sorry, not a 9 box. No spare for Chris Salmons. And he'll take a 9 for 50 after 5 for Chris Salmons, and that is the half. 44 and a bonus for Bryan Patten and 50 after 5 for Chris Salmons. Is a difference of 71 in favor of Bryan Patten versus Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert has a total by 13 over Chris Salmons, but Chris Salmons does have the game by 5 as of right now, but it's minus Bryan Hebert's pending spare fill. And Bryan Patten is also on a strike, but he's the leader overall. So that's going to be the story. Moving on to the second half of the 4th game, the 3rd quarter. Justin Ruggiero will lead off. And he's to the right of the headpin. And Hebert will fill with 8. He'll split 8, but he'll fill with 8. And Ruggiero working ball, 4-10. Hebert with an 18 in the 5th. Oh, and he almost plays it correct. He does play it correctly. Tries to cap the wood in front of the 9, but doesn't take the 10. Ruggiero will punch hard and take an 8 box. And Hebert will take a 9. That is 62 after 6 for Bryan Hebert and 67 and 6 for Justin Ruggiero. So far, Bryan Hebert is holding on to all the points as of right now. Justin Ruggiero on the pocket, drops 9, leaves the 5. Bryan Hebert will take another lemon drop, added to the counter on the 4-pin. Justin Ruggiero misses the single pin spare, wood in front of it even. Bryan Hebert on the 1-3 pocket, leaves the 4 and the 2 and the 5. Justin Ruggiero missed the 2nd, get the 3rd. It's a Paul Grant special. Bryan Hebert will take 8, 70 and 7. 77 and 7 for Justin Ruggiero. Here comes Justin Ruggiero. To the left of the headpin. Takes a few out. Bryan Hebert. Oh, another quarter Worcester on the 3. We can almost make a highlight reel of just the quarter Worcesters and lemon drops in a single match. Ruggiero working box, Hebert working box. That's about all I can say about that. Hebert punched the 3 and then punched the 7. Ruggiero's got the 4, 6, 7 to work with for a 10 box. And here it comes. It's going to be an 8 for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert will make a nice recovery for an 8 box. 85 and 8 for Justin Ruggiero and 78 and 8 for Bryan Hebert. Hope you're enjoying this match. This is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class B&E doubleheader at Amesbury, Massachusetts. With Justin Ruggiero, Bryan Patten, Bryan Hebert, and Chris Salmons. That's a 7 drop for Justin Ruggiero, not on the headpin. Bryan Hebert was on the headpin, splits 7. 1, 8, 10 for Justin Ruggiero. He misses the spare. Bryan Hebert, 2, 7, 8. And, he hits this 2 and hits the 7, but the 8 doesn't go. Justin Ruggiero will take a 7. And Hebert will take a 9. Hebert 87 and 9. Justin Ruggiero 92 and 9. By my unofficial on-stream count. All the bowlers are relatively even in terms of headpins, but Bryan Patten is ahead by 3 overall. Justin Ruggiero will drop 6 on the head pin. Bryan Hebert will be a strike. Yes, it will. It sure will be a strike for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert, 97 and a bonus in the 10th. Justin Ruggiero breaks the diamond in half, but not all the way. For an 8, 9, or 10 box to conclude the 4th game, he'll take a 10. That's 102 for game 4 for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert has 1 more ball to go before we assess his 97 game plus the next 2 balls for a fill. Maximum is 117 for Bryan Hebert if he can get 2 more strikes. Let's see what happens. Bryan Hebert. Oh, that ball's sailing off to the right. 3 so far. 100 at least so far. We'll see what the next ball is going to be. For the strike fill, and to conclude the 4th game for Bryan Hebert, and wow, that was a great recovery. That's a 9 on the fill and 106. Game 4 for Bryan Hebert for a 4-game total of 401 for Bryan Hebert, and a 4-game total of 394 for Justin Ruggiero. We'll move on to the final quarter of the 4th game here, coming up on the Atlantic Candlestick Singles Tour. Bryan Patten, 44 and a bonus after 4, and Chris Salmons, 50 after 5. Excuse me, Bryan Patten, 44 and a bonus after 5. Here he comes. And he almost comes out of the gate with a hammer. Bryan Patten so far with a 9 drop on the 5 and leaves the 5 pin. Chris Salmons drops 6, 1, 2, 7, 8. Bryan Patten on the 5 king pin, and it goes. I was nervous about that for a moment, but he's got a spare on strike. Chris Salmons has the 1 and the 7. Chris Salmons for an 8 box. 58 and 6 for Salmons. 64 and a bonus and 6 for Bryan Patten. Here comes Bryan Patten. He's off the right of the head pin. Fills with 5. That's a miss for Chris Salmons all the while. Ouch. Bryan Patten, longest winning streak, has been just 1 this season. He averages 5 points per away match and 2.8 points per home match. Chris Salmons on the 2nd ball drops 6. And it will be an 8 box for Bryan Patten. And an 8 box all the while for Chris Salmons as well. 66 and 7 for Chris Salmons and 77 and 7 for Bryan Patten. Bryan Patten in his past 5 matches, he's taken 7 strikes, 49 spares, and 48 tens. In his past 5 away matches, he's taken 25 points, averaging 5 per match. In his past 5 home matches, he's taken 14 points, averaging 2.8 per match. And that's nearly a strike. And will it be a strike? It is a strike for Bryan Patten. Myrtleizing the pins down there today. He's figured it out. Far and away with a buttload of marks for Bryan Patten. And it's a working ball for Chris Salmons. No mark. 7, 8, 9, or 10. And it'll be a nice 10 for Chris Salmons, pinning it out. 76 and 8 for Chris Salmons. 87 and a bonus for Bryan Patten. Bryan Patten, oh my goodness. 6 strikes and 9 spares for the guy. Can you believe that? Bryan Patten. On the 1-3 pocket and a spinning piece of wood, and he'll split 8 so far in his strike fill. Chris Salmons is the left of the head pin, and it's the 4 horsemen right and the 7 and the 9. Bryan Patten with a lumberyard in front of the 9 and the 10. Let's see if it goes. Filling a strike. Oh, and he tried to play the left side and tried to get cute with it, and that's a spare for Chris Salmons. A great spare. Bryan Patten with an 8 fill on the strike for 95 and 8. And there was kind of the ball, but it's a 9 box. 104 and 9 for Bryan Patten. It's one of those balls where on the 3rd box, if you make the shot that you wanted to make for your 2nd ball and you see that it didn't go, it's a little bit comforting to at least be like, at least it probably wouldn't have gone anyway. It's not much more comforting, but it's a little comforting nonetheless. Chris Salmons with a spare, 86 and 9 and a bonus. Bryan Patten, 104 and 9. Bryan Patten leads off on the head pin again. Bucket of 5, buttressed by wood. Chris Salmons to the left of the head pin. Drops 6, fills 6, 92 and 9. Here comes Bryan Patten. Oh, and off to the right. Got a little bit excited there. Chris Salmons is off to the right of the head pin, leaves the head pin. Bryan Patten looking at a potential 114 game here if he can break the diamond, and he will. That's a 114. Game 4 for Bryan Patten, 492. 4-game total, and a 10 for Chris Salmons, 379. 4-game total for Chris Salmons. It's still 8 points for Bryan Patten, up in the total by 98. And he took the 4th game by 12 against Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert versus Chris Salmons. Bryan Hebert currently has 8 points, all the points. He has the total by 22, and he took the 4th game by 4. 106 to Chris Salmons' 102. Justin Ruggiero 102. Bryan Patten 114. As we move into the 5th and final game. And so far, we have one bowler in each matchup with 8 points apiece. And here we go. Justin Ruggiero missed the head pin. And Bryan Hebert also missing the head pin. And Ruggiero for the mark. He'll leave 2. Hebert 4 on the deck. No, punch 2, leave 2. Ruggiero 8, 9, or 10. It'll be a 9. Bryan Hebert on the 1 and the 2, and he'll take an 8. 8 after 1 for Hebert and 9 after 1 for Ruggiero. Justin Ruggiero, his 4 games today, has been 101, 91, 100, and 102. Bryan Patten with a 103, a 133, a 142, and a 114. Bryan Hebert with a 107, a 93, a 95, and a 106. Chris Salmons, a 101, an 84, a 92, and a 102. Justin Ruggiero has 10 out of 11 matches at or over 500. He's just off the head pin there. Bryan Hebert off the right of the head pin. Justin Ruggiero, his longest streak of matches at or over 100 has been 5. His longest streak of matches at or over 500 has been 1. No mark for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert leaving 4 on the deck. No marks for either bowler. It's a 7 box for Ruggiero. Hebert looking at a 6 box or greater, and it will be a nice 9 box. 17 after 2 for Hebert and 16 after 2 for Ruggiero. Justin Ruggiero in the green on your right there, he has his longest streak of matches with greater than 7 points per match has been 4 this season, averaging 10.33 points per home match and 6.4 points per away match. It's another quarter Worcester, but that's a strike for Bryan Hebert. Oh my goodness, another quarter Worcester for Justin Ruggiero, though. And he almost converts it into a spare spinning piece of wood, but not quite. Goodness, these quarter Worcesters have been wild this match. So many of them. It's an 8 box for Justin Ruggiero, 24 after 3. Bryan Hebert, that strike, 27 after 3, plus a bonus. Justin Ruggiero, in his past 5 matches, he's taken 13 strikes, 53 spares, and 56 tens. In his past 5 home matches, Justin Ruggiero has taken 50 points, averaging 10 per match. Drops 7 there, splits 7. Bryan Hebert on the strike fill, 5 so far. It's a left side cleary. Ruggiero sails through the center void. Difficult shot. Difficult leave. Bryan Hebert on the left side cleary. He'll punch the 4. That'll be a 6 fill on strike. Justin Ruggiero will take another one out for an 8 box. And Bryan Hebert will take one more out for a 7 box. 40 after 4 for Hebert and 32 after 4 for Justin Ruggiero. Justin Ruggiero has taken 32 points in his past 5 away matches, averaging 6.4 per match. 6 out of his 11 matches have been without double-digit wins. Justin Ruggiero will drop 7 so far, leaving 8 so far, actually. Hebert's to the right of the head pin, and he drops 5. Working ball. Ruggiero on the 3-6. That's a spare for Ruggiero, and he'll sit on 42 after 5 plus a ball. Bryan Hebert 40 after 4, and he'll punch 1 and punch 2, and leave the 3, the 7, and the 10. The 5, the 7, and the 10. So Ruggiero with a 1 mark, 42 half plus a ball. Hebert, it's going to take a 7, 47 after 5 for Bryan Hebert. And 42 and a bonus after 5 for Justin Ruggiero. 436, 4.5 game total for Justin Ruggiero. And 448, 4.5 game total for Bryan Hebert. Back to Bryan Patten and Chris Salmons. Bryan Patten opens up with a 5 split. Spread eagle minus the 3. Chris Salmons is off the right of the head pin, drops 6. Patten. He'll punch the 2 and leave a banana split 4, 6, 7, 10. Chris Salmons will punch the head pin and leave the 3, 7, 10 on the deck. Bryan Patten Oh, and he'll take a 6 box. And Chris Salmons, he'll take a 9 box. That's an 8 drop for Bryan Patten on the head pin. Chris Salmons dropping 8, a wiggly 8. 2-4 for Patten and 2-5 for Salmons. Bryan Patten laps it off. Chris Salmons misses his spare as well. Bryan Patten has 9 out of 10 matches without double-digit wins. He'll take a 9 box there. And that's a 10 box for Chris Salmons. 19 after 2 for Salmons, 15 after 2 for Patten. Bryan Patten has the 32nd highest Class B North average at 102.25. He recently faced Stephen Davis in round 11 at Portsmouth Bolorama with a 503 series. He took 4 points, 85, 101, 106, 89, and 102. He had 22 headpin shots and 12 splits with 2 strikes, 8 spares, and 10 at 10s. That's the story for Bryan Patten. And he's off to the left of the headpin. Chris Salmons, oof. Kind of slices diagonally through the rack. Starting with a 3 pin. Patten will punch the 3 and only the 3. Salmons for his spare, and he'll punch the 9 and leave the 4 horsemen left and the 6 and the 10. Patten, 5 box or greater. And he'll make it an 8 box for 23 after 3. And that will be, for Chris Salmons, pin still mixing, it's going to be a 7 box for 26 after 3. Hope you're enjoying this match. I'm Steve Kelly in the call for the Atlantic Can Open Singles Tour. Check it out on the Facebook page, Atlantic Can Open Singles Tour, or ACST. Bryan Patten mixes down 7 on the head pin. Chris Salmons working ball to the far left corner. 1-3-6 for Bryan Patten. Bryan Patten, father of Alex Patten, who also bowls in the ACST. And that's a spare for Bryan Patten. 33 after 4 plus a ball. And Chris Salmons is on the head pin there, but buries it a little too much. 2-6-10. Chris Salmons will take a 7. 33 after 4 for Salmons, and 33 in the ball after 4 for Bryan Patten. Here comes Bryan Patten filling a spare. Oh, he's tails off to the left, but he drops 5 and fills 5. Chris Salmons is on the head pin, splits 6 for his efforts. 4, 7, 8, 9. Bryan Patten's got the 1, 5, 3, 8, 10. And he'll punch a few, leaving 3 on the deck. Chris Salmons, he'll punch 2 and leave 2. And Patten, 7, 8, 9, or 10, he'll take a 7. For 45 after 5 for Bryan Patten. Chris Salmons will take a 9 for 42 after 5. And in the 5th game, halfway through the 5th game, coming down the home stretch, Bryan Patten has a total by 101 in the 5th game by 3, 45 to Justin Rogero's 42. Chris Salmons down in the total by 27, 421 to Bryan Hebert's 448. Bryan Hebert in this game has 47 in the 5th, up by 5 to Chris Salmons' 42, and that is your score update. And we are going to move on very quickly to the final half of the 5th and final game for at least Bryan Hebert and Justin Ruggiero as we do the ceremonial switching of the bowling balls. It's a little like the airing of the grievances, except it's not Festivus. Bryan Hebert in his past 5 home matches has taken 20 points, averaging 4 per match. And he has 10 out of 12 matches without double-digit wins. Again, struggling a little bit this season. He has the number 21 high Class E North average of 92. That's a 6 drop for Bryan Hebert on the head pin. And it was a difficult shot to convert. That's a 6 fill for Justin Ruggiero, and he'll turn that into a spare as well. And Hebert will take an 8 box. Justin Ruggiero is at 58 after 6 plus a ball, and Hebert is at 55 after 6. Bryan Hebert recently faced Kristen Poirier in round 12, taking 10 points with a 458 series, 17 for 50 on the head pin with 13 splits, and Hebert will drop 7, not in the head pin, but we'll get a nice mix. And that's a 5 fill for Justin Ruggiero. Not in the head pin. Hebert. Oh, and he'll take a nice spare, just capping the wood and hitting the head pin just the right way. Ruggiero, he just misses the object pin, and a piece of wood almost comes to pick it up, but can't quite turn enough. No 3 marks in a row for Justin Ruggiero. And he'll take a 9 box, 72 and 7 for Ruggiero, and 65 and a bonus for Hebert in the 7th. In that match against Kristen Poirier in round 12, Bryan Hebert had 0 strikes, 6 spares, and 9 tens with a 92, 103, 84, 97, and 82. And Bryan Hebert is right in the pocket, buries the rack. 10 in the pit. Strike for Bryan Hebert. That's a right side cleary all the while for Justin Ruggiero, missing the headpin to the left. Trying to take it for a spare, he punches hard on the 3. Justin Ruggiero is a really hard release, and it doesn't seem to be working very well for him here at Riverwalk Lanes today. And it'll take a 7. 79 and 8 for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert, that strike on spare is at 85 and 8. This is a bit of a redemption story for Bryan Hebert after having a really struggling season. He is really on it today. Bryan Hebert on a strike. Light hit to the right of the head pin, but he gets another ball. 6-pack in the 10. Justin Ruggiero, banana split on the head pin. 6 drop. Hebert. Oh no, Phil with 6 on the strike. Not bad. 91 and 8. Justin Ruggiero takes 2, leaves 2. Hebert. We'll take an 8 box. And that will be an 8 box as well for Justin Ruggiero. That's 87 and 9 for Justin Ruggiero and 99 and 9 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan 311's Hebert have a little joke where he bowled 3 spares with a 1 fill in a row at Lakeside on October 27th, 2024. It was so funny. He was so consistent in doing that. Every spare had a 1 fill, so he got 3 11 boxes in a row. Bryan Hebert on the 310. And it goes. That's another mark for Bryan Hebert. His 4th of the game, 109 in the 10th, plus a ball. Bryan Hebert, 510 total, plus another fill. 17 for 50 on the headpin with 8 splits. Justin Ruggiero, 17 for 50 with 6 splits. Will take a 9 box. 96 game 5 for Justin Ruggiero. 5 game total of 490 for Justin Ruggiero. Bryan Hebert looking to fill his spare right now. Final ball. On the head pin, buries it a little bit too much, a little bit full. 114, game 5 for Bryan Hebert, and a 5-game total of 515 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert breaks the pin setter. That's going to have to get looked at. That's a 4-game total of a 5-game total of 515 for Bryan Hebert. That 114. Look at that, 4 marks, 2 strikes, 2 spares. Justin Ruggiero with 2 spares, 96. 5-game total of 490. So we're looking to finish here in the final quarter before we sign off today in this very fast match. I'd like to say a couple of special thanks, not only to Mark Ritchie, the owner of Riverwalk Lanes, who's gone down to fix the lane multiple times today, but also I'd like to thank our ACST committee members, including our ACST League Commissioner Danny Finn, Class B Treasurer Corey Alisi, Class E Treasurer Maurice Perry, our ACST statistician Micah Imparato, and of course, Steve Abodeely for some of the B-roll and photography you've seen in some of the shots today. Check him out at stabodeely.com, STABODEELY.com, and that's an 8 drop and an 8 split for Chris Salmons. 7 and 8, nearly a strike for Bryan Patten. It's a wiggly 4-pin with wood all around it. Spare leaves for both. Oh, and Chris Salmons, he sails into the gutter. Anywhere else, I think it would have been a gimme of a spare. Bryan Patten, single pin spare opportunity on the 4. And it goes. That's a spare for Patten. Will this be a miss a second? Get the 3rd situation for Chris Salmons? It sure will be. 52 and 6 for Chris Salmons. 55 and a ball in the 6 for Bryan Patten. Here comes Chris Salmons. Punches hard on the head pin. Spread equal minus the 4. Patten on filling a spare. He's off to the left of the head pin, 6-pack. Check his ID, 4 fill. 59 and 6. Chris Salmons, 7-10, 6-2, 3. He leaves the 3-6-10. Bryan Patten, he leaves the 1-6-10. Salmons will take a 7 box. 59 and 7. Bryan Patten will take a 9 box for 68 and 7. Chris Salmons in his past 5 home matches, he's taken 42 points, averaging 8.4 per match. And when his past 5 away matches, he's taken 40 points, averaging 8 per match. He has 7 out of 17 matches without double-digit wins. That's a split of 7 for Chris Salmons. 2-6-10. On the head pin for Bryan Patten, nearly another strike leaves the 6 pin. Chris Salmons has a lot of superlatives in the ACST, actually, including he has the 10th most total 10s in the ACST at 166, and the number 3 ACST North total 10s at 166. Oh, and Bryan Patten missing his spare, and Chris Salmons missing the single twice for a 9 box, 68 and 8. Bryan Patten on the 6 pin for the retry for a 10 box. And it will be a miss the second, get the third situation, 78 and 8 for Bryan Patten. He's on 600 watch. He's currently at 570 with 2 boxes to go. He'll need a mark and a good fill to do it, but Bryan Patten is on 600 watch right now. Chris Salmons, all the while, he has the number 4th highest Class E North average at 99.55, the 7th Class E North high single at 131, the number 6 Class E North total strikes at 21, and he's on the pocket, buries it there, but drops 8. Bryan Patten, I'd love if he can get a mark to get over 600. He drops 7, 136. Chris Salmons has the number 1 Class E North total spares at 152, and that's a spare for Chris Salmons. 78 and a ball and 9. Bryan Patten, oh, he's just off to the right, leaves the 1 and the 6. Chris Salmons has the number 3 Class E North perfect box percentage at 40%. He has the number 1 Class E North total 10s at 166. And Chris Salmons has the number 5th Class E North fewest average pins left at 61.53, and that's a painful 9 box for Bryan Patten that puts him at 579 with 87 in the 9th. And he basically needs a mark and a 10 fill effectively, I think. Actually, probably even more than that. He might be just a little shy of 600 today. That's a 5 fill for Chris Salmons. Right side Cleary. And Bryan Patten, yep, I think that's probably going to close the door on that. 7 drop, 1, 2, 10. He can get to 599 with a mark and a 10 fill, unfortunately. Still an impressive day for Bryan Patten, though, regardless. Yep, and that's, no mark for Bryan Patten there. Chris Salmons, final ball. It's going to be a 6 box. 89 in the 10th. Yes, did I win? 5 game total of 468 for Chris Salmons. And a 7 box for Bryan Patten for 94 for a 5 game total of 586 for Bryan Patten. So we got close to 600. Quite close, but just not quite enough. So, wow. Okay, so here's the totals after 5, and we'll show you the final stats in just a moment here as I just send the stats over a serial line to the main computer. Give me 1 second just to render those raster graphics. Here we are, the final stats today. Justin Ruggiero will take 2 points to Bryan Patten's 12. He just squeaked by in the 5th game, 96 to Bryan Patten's 94. Bryan Hebert will take 14 points. A shutout victory against Chris Salmons. And Chris Salmons' own house. 515 5-game total for Bryan Hebert and 468 5-game total for Chris Salmons. And again, 490 5-game total for Justin Ruggiero and 586 5-game total for Bryan Patten. An impressive day for Bryan Patten in particular. 6 strikes, 11 spares. Wild, wild, wild. The head pin percentage goes to Bryan Patten, 46%. He's the one who got the most. Far and away totaling the most, and Mark Phil is totaling 133, averaging 7.8 per mark. And with that, Justin Ruggiero will move to 96 and 72 today. Bryan Patten moves to 51 and 103. Bryan Hebert moves to 64 and 118. And Chris Salmons moves to 148 and 104. And that will just about do it for us here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Again, we moved so quickly I didn't even get a chance to show you where we were today. We're at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. Again, check it out. The Friday Night Pro League will be here tonight. I forget... My goodness, I'm just forgetting which teams are here this evening, but I'm sure they'll have a stream kicking up. So anyways, yes, so a big shout out to Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts, and to Mark Ritchie, the owner. And again, there's plenty of other things to check out in the Candlepin Bowling world, such as Candlepin Bowling Network, at Candlepin Bowling on TikTok, at Candlepin Corner on YouTube, the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook. That's the hub for all of these matches. Check out my channel, 3 Ball Spare, on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Just search 3 Ball Spare and look for the 3 Ball Spare logo you see on your screen, and that will be my channel. And also be sure to check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center. Anyways, that should just about do it for us at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. For Justin Ruggiero, Brian Patten, Bryan Hebert, and Chris Salmons, I've been Steve Kelly. We'll see you at the next Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Have a great one, everybody.